Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and on this episode, we are visiting a kind of classic. At least I wouldn't outright call this one a classic, but it is the start of a franchise that has 6 movies, so it's kind of in that weird middle ground where it's really well known, but I wouldn't really put it in the classic status, if you will. This, much like Texas Chainsaw, which we're working our way through those movies until October because they're releasing a new one, same with this. This October we are getting Cult of Chucky, so this episode is going to be about Child's Play, as we're going to work our way through all of the Chucky movies by the time we get to October, and we'll see how we feel about them and that kind of thing. So a common misconception I think a lot of people have who are just sort of casually into horror movies is they'll refer to this as Chucky when it's not. It's Child's Play. That's what the first 3 movies are called.
Yes, but I believe you've made that mistake several times.
Tim, that one time I said the Chucky movies. That's okay. That is a perfectly acceptable thing to say. It's still the Chucky movie. This is not called Chucky. Anyway.
We'll find out.
Yes, we will. We will find out. So yeah, we'll start a little bit spoiler free. We'll do a little spoiler free section, and then we will go into spoilers. Probably quite early. I don't think there's much point in doing too much spoiler free for a movie like this, but we'll give some overall thoughts and feelings on it. Obviously, we watched it again. We've both seen it before, of course, for this, and we'll get into it. So, what is Child's Play? It is about a serial killer called the Strangler. Charles Lee Ray is the man's name, and we actually start the movie. He's on the run from the police. They're actually about to catch him, and they shoot him a couple of times, and he escapes into a toy store, and he performs a very quick little ritual to transfer his soul into a good guy doll. Good guy is this brand of doll, obviously fictional in this movie universe, and he takes the name Chucky as the doll. And he ends up going to this kid named Andy for his birthday, and of course, as the doll Chucky, he starts to kill people who did him wrong in his life, and tries to become human again. That's kind of the plot of the movie. But yeah, Tim.
Yes.
Do you like Child's Play? Not the movie. Do you just like Child's Play in general?
I do draw a lot, I guess, but it's a little childish. Let me paint you a picture, Pete, my boy. So I was driving home yesterday from a friend's house, and my big plan was to watch this movie when I get home. And so on the way home, I passed a KFC, which it had been a while.
All right, Tim, can I just pause you here? Sure. I have zero idea where the hell this is going. When you said let's paint a picture, I thought we were talking about the first time you saw it or something. You're like, yesterday when I was driving, I passed a KFC. Right, continue. Don't mean to interrupt, but I just...
All right, so it's been a while since I've been to a KFC, and I don't know when the last time you've gone, but they have these new $5 boxes that I decided to try out, and I wasn't expecting there'd be that much food in there, but I was really surprised at the quantity I got for just $5. It came with 3 pieces of chicken. I had a pretty big, sizable thing of mashed potatoes, which I thought they were going to give you the small individual size, but they give you actually a pretty hefty thing of it. Then you get a drink, a biscuit, a cookie, and so I got home and I had this this plate of KFC.
This feast
yes.
of KFC.
And then I started watching Child's Play, and I was like, this is a good night.
Is that the whole picture?
Yeah. So I like KFC and I like Child's Play. Is what I guess that's what I was getting to.
There was legitimately a full minute of describing what your meal from KFC was.
I want people to know the mindset I was in while I was watching this movie. How full was I? What type of chicken meat was inside of me?
I'm a fan of the boneless stuff myself. I get some of the popcorn chicken and gravy. The gravy's a must. This is my favorite part.
Oh yeah, I love dipping that biscuit in that gravy.
I dip the chicken, dip the fries. I'll get extra fries so I can just keep dipping. I don't even care about the fries. I just want something to dip in it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
I want to use all the
fantastic.
gravy. It's important. And see when they say, "Oh, do you want what side do you want?" And like, "Do you want gravy or sweet corn?" I'm like, "Piss off with your sweet corn. Give me the gravy."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what psycho is picking the corn. But and I do think you bring up a good point too, which is I have no idea who these people are that prefer bone over boneless. It's insane to me.
Baffling. I like to just be able to shove it all in my mouth and chew to my heart's content.
Yeah.
Not even have to worry about it.
Yeah. I don't want no dumb bone getting in the way of my, let's face it, shoveling of food in my gullet.
All right. Somewhere along these lines, we're going to start talking about Child's Play.
Yeah.
So you like Child's Play? That's good.
Good movie. Good movie.
Yeah, I also enjoy Child's Play. It's not my favorite in the franchise, though. I think this falls into one of these franchises where I think the strongest is actually one of the sequels. But and I think part of that is because Child's Play is very much a series, or Chucky is a series of movies. Is very much it became something else as it went on.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
And arguably so did something like, Nightmare on Elm Street, where the first one was more of a horror movie and then it kind of became more of a black comedy. And Chucky kind of did that as well, but I think maybe with Chucky the argument is maybe that it kind of fits that to an extent because of, it's a talking doll who's going about killing people. An element of that is just kind of goofy. Now that's not to say that I don't enjoy the first one. I do. I like how kind of serious it takes it to a point. It's obviously, unlike some of the later movies, it kind of hides, like it builds a little bit of mystery. It's like it doesn't show you them moving or talking for a long time. There's a lot of things happen off screen and the characters notice something's changed, and the kid keeps saying, "Oh, it's Chucky, he's talking to me," and the adults are like, "Ah, shut up, you fool!" Like that doesn't happen.
And you know what I noticed in rewatching this, which I feel like differs a little bit from the other movies, which obviously this is a horror movie. There's no doubt about that. But I actually thought there was quite a bit of action in it.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a car kind of scene. There's like the shootout at the start, and
there's a couple of explosions.
yeah, that was actually what I was watching this on Blu-ray. I got the box set, and obviously they usually for the new
I was
releases.
watching it in 70mm, but that's cool.
Got a 70mm theater just like in your house. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's whipped it out. I need to make sure mine looks bigger. Oh. But no, so I was watching, and one of the things they do, of course, is they take these old movies, but this is before 5.1 audio and stuff, but they remix it for the new releases. And I was watching it, and I've got the surround sound, and I quite like it. But it's always funny watching one of these older movies where it wasn't designed for this. Right, and every time there was it's like the subwoofer felt like it was doing nothing all movie except when there was an explosion, and then it like blasted out this like wave of like bass, and it was like, oh Jesus. And you can sort of tell they were kind of almost lazy when they're remixing it. It's like, okay, what are the obvious things that will need some bass? The explosion is right, and there was almost nothing else had the bass. It was weird.
That drives me crazy, which I fully admit I'm not a tech guy. Like I really don't know anything like about sound and
images or
settings.
movies or
yeah, I just buy what I think is probably the best version of something. But sound really drives me crazy when you have a movie where it's like, because I live with roommates, so I try to be respectful and not blast stuff when other people are around. And then sometimes you get the movie where it's like the music is really loud, so you turn it down, then people start talking and you can't hear anything, and like constantly moving it up and down. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. I think that's what I've never been in a situation where I've had roommates, and I kind of I think I would probably hate it because I do like to crank up the volume a little bit. It's one of the things when I was younger, and I had like when I was a teenager and I was in my bedroom and all that, and I had surround sound in there, and it was a big issue because the neighbours, like the attached house up above had like that was their bedroom, so if I was watching something at night I had to be really conscious about the sound. Whereas now it's not, it's like, whereas you get away with a lot more when you actually have it in the living room, because at least if it's attached to another house, it's usually in our living room, so at night time they're not in there, so it's like, just crank it up.
You don't have to worry about it.
A bit of bass. But no, so I like movies like actually, speaking of sound, I love the opening movie logo for this. Not United Artists, it was one before, it was one that I didn't recognize, but it had this really cool 80s synth, and I was like, oh man, I miss these 80s movie logos and intros.
I have to go back and watch it because I don't specifically remember it, but I do know what you're talking about just in terms of like anytime you see like the Orion um,
or even canon films. I mean, sure,
yeah.
they're lower quality typically, but like even those, it's kind of like nostalgic. Yeah, Orion's a big one because Orion was Terminator and RoboCop, so that has a lot of nostalgia. In fact, I went to see a movie last year. I can't remember what it was for the life of me, but it had the Orion logo at the start, and I nearly shot a brick when I seen it. I was like, whoa, this is weird, because obviously like Hammer came back. Like they've had a couple of movies and they had a big Hammer logo, but it was like a new fancy HD one, whereas this Orion logo was, I mean, it might have been a new version of it, but it looked the same. It was the same, Orion writing coming out of space, and I was like, oh man, Orion, they exist now again? What?
You know what? It drives me crazy sometimes too with like new logos that seem like they take forever. Like I feel like there's one, I always forget which it is, but like whenever I see it, I'm like, is this like, this feels like the logo's been going on for like a minute or something. It's really annoying.
I don't have that
And, like,
problem with any of the big studios because I feel like all the Fox, Universal, whoever.
Oh
like,
sure, like the classic ones are usually still pretty good. I'm talking about like the newer, like production companies that you usually see for that.
Yeah. It's really funny when you watch like a foreign movie or like a low budget movie that have got a bunch of different people who have financed it, and you have like 8 of them before the movie starts.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ridiculous. Whereas 1 or 2 is quite nice. It really gets you in the mood for a movie, actually, I feel. And this is a bit of a tangent, but like say at the start of like the Dark Knight, you get the Warner Bros. Logo and then you get the DC logo, and it feels like it's building to something. It feels like it's like cinematic, and it feels like for the record, my favourite opening music for one of those logos is the Universal theme.
That's great.
For the record, I like that one. I also like the one they had in the early 90s, which is because they completely changed it. And I like the new one as well, especially the new version of it they did for the 100th anniversary. But the 75th anniversary one they did, I really like that music as well. And that's really nostalgic because that was the mid to early 90s, which is kind of like my early childhood. So I've got a lot of really fond memories of that. But okay, to get away from the tangents and back to the movie. So I'll just give the spoiler warning from here, I think, just so we can talk about it. Here are some little touches that I love, some little 80s touches. And I was kind of feeling nostalgic I was watching this, partly because of the logos at the start, but also just because it felt like an 80s movie. The kid, like Andy, makes his mother breakfast in bed, breakfast in bed, even though it's
kind of accurate. He did use bread.
He did use toast, yeah. But he makes breakfast in bed for her, and I was laughing because they've got this like fake good guy cereal, which is the Chucky cereal brand, but it's basically like kind of like a Fruit Loops and Lucky Charms kind of looking thing, but it's all coloured, right? So it's obviously really sugary cereal. Now, first of all, he pours in so much that when he pours in the milk, there's just cereal pouring out over the bowl. But then he starts putting in big spoonfuls of sugar, and I'm like, man, that is already diabetes in a bowl. You're making it worse. Stop it, Andy. Stop it. Like, I understand putting some sugar in, like say, like cornflakes, just a really a normal cereal where there's none of that to begin with, and you just like, oh, I want to just make it a little bit sweet because it's a little bit hard to eat. But this is like no. This is taking like the most sugary cereal imaginable and just dousing more sugar into it.
I mean, I didn't do this all the time, but I do remember there were a couple of times, like as a kid, where I went and played with my friends, and I remember just taking a little Ziploc bag and just pouring sugar in it and just like going out to play and just like straight up like hard lining sugar all day.
You were snorting it, were you? You're just like,
oh yeah.
So no, I thought that was amusing, and because I was like, okay, it still makes sense from a breakfast point of view, even if he's been a messy little shit about it and putting a lot of sugar in. Then he has this black burnt toast, and then I thought he was getting some butter to like butter the toast, and that's normal. But then he just puts in like a scoop of ice cream, and I'm like, what are you doing, you stupid little shit? But that whole thing, I was just amused the whole thing. It was like, it just felt like so 80s, like the kid making breakfast for his mom, and it's his birthday, and he thinks the present's his toy. Like, it's just a nice little bit of nostalgia.
Well, and I like her reaction to it is, she doesn't get angry or mad at him. She kind of like lovingly pretends like, oh, ha ha ha.
She appreciates the effort, the intent of it, yeah.
And actually really makes you like, endear to them pretty quickly.
Because he's just an innocent little kid who wants his toy, and I think we all remember wanting a toy for Christmas or whatever, and you're hoping you're getting that one toy, and she's really nice about it. You also get the crushing disappointment when it turns out to be clothes in the box, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm going to get your doll, but you just have to wait because it just came out and it wasn't ready for your birthday and blah blah blah." Another thing I really liked is her shitty boss. Like, he's this like little this little asshole who's like got a bow tie on. He thinks he's like all powerful. He's like, "Oh, you'll have to stay here and do the shift for this other person. Yes, you can go for 2 hours to pick up your child, but you must be back." Oh.
I think if this was like any later Child's Play movie, I feel like he definitely would have died.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, like he definitely seems like he's being set up as like, all right, yeah, this is gonna be a body count.
Yeah, which the movie doesn't really have. All the deaths are very. Well, there's one that's kind of happenstance, but everyone else is someone that Chucky targets because it's his old partner who betrayed him. Because we see at the start of the movie, his buddy Eddie kind of drives off without him, and then he wants to go after the cop who, killed him essentially. And then the guy who taught him the rituals because he wants to find out how to go back to being a human again, kind of thing.
I want to know what was up with their relationship.
That was weird, yeah. Because they weren't very friendly when we went to visit him.
No, and the guy's talking about how like, oh, like you're using the powers for evil, and it's like, was there ever a time you guys hung out and you didn't think he was evil?
Do you know what I liked about her buying the doll off of just a random guy in the back alley, right? I liked that it was basically a subversion of the old trope where you buy like the mystical item off a mysterious person and it's cursed. It was kind of like that, but it wasn't. It was just normal. Yeah. Because it was just a toy that came from the store, and he happened to grab it and like sold it off as like he flogged it to her basically. So it was like a subversion of that old the creepy man in the alley. It was just a normal homeless guy selling shit.
Yeah, like you could probably. It's kind of interesting because they do all this magical, mystical kind of stuff, but it's all set in like 1980s New York, which and it gives it like a nice little flavor. And it's the kind of New York that I miss seeing in movies where everything feels really dangerous. Yeah. Like you go down the wrong alley and you're just like
at one point the detective's like, "Oh, you can't go there this time of night. That's dangerous. You can't go there." And it feels ultra like creepy and dangerous the entire time. And the roads are always wet because movies in the 80s, the roads are always wet. Actually, just from a setting point of view, I love her apartment building. The apartments, whatever, but it's the stairways and the elevator. Oh, yeah. It's like this weird inner balcony kind of vibe, and you can see like down the sides of it, and it's almost like you could imagine like there wasn't any floors underneath this. It was just all like up to this, but it's just the way they've built it. It's like, I don't know. I just like the design of it. It's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely like leaves for like some cool shots.
It almost feels like the hallways in the apartment building are like streets in and of themselves, because it's almost like a fence and there's like a little walkway to each door. It kind of felt like that.
And it does a good job of like usually your home base or whatever is meant to feel kind of safe and stuff, but it still feels like there's like a little danger to it. Yeah.
Can we talk about the detective actually? Mike, his name is, who I kept thinking of throughout the movie as not Mark Ruffalo. Because he looks like Mark Ruffalo. It is actually kind of insane almost creepy how much he looks like Mark Ruffalo. But he's obviously not, because it's 88 and Mark Ruffalo was probably like 15 or whatever age he was at the time. But he's obviously this cop. He's the one who like almost kills Chucky at the start. He's a person, and then he's investigating the case because obviously Chucky kills Karen, who's Andy's mother, her best friend. Because she's babysitting, and he ends up he uses a little toy hammer to bash her on the head, and then she goes out the window.
She takes a pretty big leap, like
she does. Yeah, it's a little bit over the top. But do you know what I like about this is up until this point, it does play it like we know it's him because it's obviously going to be that's what the movie's about. But it never shows you that it's him. It's just like you hear the TV come on, and it's kind of creepy, and it plays it more like a horror movie. Whereas more in the sequels, it's already set up. We know Chucky's walking around and talking, so they don't build to it. It's just that's what it is right away.
Yeah, this is like another one of those things where, I feel like I have this with a lot of '80s movies where it would have been interesting to see this when it came out, like completely fresh. Because by the time I saw it, I'd already watched horror movies by then. I probably watched other Child's Play movies that want this one. I don't know if I saw this one first.
I definitely saw Bride of Chucky first. That was definitely the first one I saw.
Oh yeah. And yeah, then you just have like obviously you don't know beat for beat what's gonna happen in the movie, but you know what Chucky is and how he kind of acts and what he looks like and stuff.
By the way, that's something I would never do now, is like watch a movie that's like the fourth in a series. But obviously as a kid, I didn't have like, because now I have the option of like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to buy the other ones and watch them first. I would never do it now. But as a kid, it's like, that's what's coming on TV, so that's what I'm going to watch, because I don't have the option of seeking out the other ones first.
Yeah, and I remember like going to the movie store or the rental place, and you go to get the first one, but it's out, so you're like, well, I guess we're watching the third one then, or whatever they have. I
remember actually seeing Halloween 4 on TV and loving it, and then like, the next week I went to the video store and found Halloween 5, and obviously you know how that ended up. If you go back and watch the reviews for those two, you know that I was not as fond of Halloween 5.
If I could time travel, I would just time travel to that moment just to see the look on your face as the credits start rolling.
I always remember as well that Halloween 4, when it was on TV and I watched it at Halloween, it was on after an episode of Buffy. And I can tell you which episode it was. It was the earshot episode of Buffy when she hears everyone's thoughts.
Oh, okay.
It's just one of those weird things. I remember that for some reason.
I forget, was there ever like an episode of Buffy where they did a kind of like slasher-esque kind of thing?
A slasher?
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I don't know if it was ever a straight slasher. I thought you were asking about a doll, because like, yeah, there was the puppet episode. Although the twist in that, of course, was that the puppet ended up being the good guy, but straight up slasher. I don't know if there was ever a straight up serial killer vibe.
Surprising, because you think of like like they had a lot of episodes, and
they obviously they did everything else. They did like they did a werewolf occasionally. Obviously they had a lot of vampires. They did they kind of did a mummy episode. They did do a mummy episode. They did an alien episode even, which was kind of weird actually, and out of place when they did the alien episode. It was like, well, this is weird. You never really established that this is going to be aliens in this show. And I know it's strange saying, oh, this is crossing a line. You've had vampires and demons and werewolves and shit all these seasons, and then but
that was pretty early on though, wasn't it?
Oh no, the alien episode was like season 5.
I was thinking of like the praying mantis one.
Oh, I don't think that was an alien.
Teacher. Oh, okay.
Oh, to be fair, was Bad Eggs alien? Or maybe, I don't know if Bad Eggs was actually aliens, or if that was just because it made me think of Alien, because it had like a facehugger kind of vibe to it. Maybe that was aliens, but that was a terrible episode, so... we're tangent a lot in this one. So they play a lot more horror. You don't see Chucky as much. It's not until because the mom obviously doubts him, and the police think it's him. They think it's the kid. Think it's Andy, who's maybe maybe intentionally, maybe not, but maybe he's pushed her out the window. Although they never, and obviously they eventually figure out there's like a murder weapon as well, but they suspect it's him. He keeps saying the doll's talking to him, and even his mother gets upset, and she agrees to like let him go to a hospital and stuff, because obviously this is kind of crazy. Obviously during all this as well, Chucky makes him take him out to where Eddie is, and he ends up killing him as well. And again, we don't see it. We don't see Chucky moving around. It's very kind of hiding it and playing it for creepiness. And that was one of the explosions you were mentioning, is Chucky rigs the stove to explode upon the gunfire. There's actually one point where the guy Eddie almost shoots the kid, and I was like, oh, that'd have been dark. That'd have been a dark twist to this movie. But what I like is that we don't see for sure if the doll actually is doing stuff, even though that's what the movie's going to be about. We don't see it for sure until the mum sees it. That's when,
which is that's a fantastic reveal.
Yeah, because she basically she's obviously she keeps hearing it from the kid. She's like thinking, is it possible that just as crazy as it sounds, is it possible? Because she doesn't want to believe her kid's a psychopath, obviously.
Yeah,
no mother does, and she threatens Chucky's like. And obviously I love the sort of the thing that gives her the hint that it actually is, because basically she picks up the box and the batteries that are meant to go inside it fall out, and it's like, wait a minute, he's got no batteries in him, and she actually pulls off the lid and there's no batteries, and it's like, oh, holy shit. So she like demands, like, talk to me, prove that you're real, or I'm going to throw you in the fireplace, you little shit. And that's when we hear the classic voice, you bitch, you slut, I'm going to kill you. And the Brad Dourif Chucky voice. But
and then when he turns around and like his face starts moving, this is like really impressive.
It's really good.
Animatronics.
The lip movement is actually really good. Yeah, it's really impressive, and I'm really glad that even in your movies that where they could have just CG'd his head, I don't think I don't think they did. Maybe in the new one they will do that, but I don't think they will. I feel like
like I mean, I don't remember too clearly. Like maybe they might use CGI for like little touches here and there, but yeah, I think for the most part they keep it pretty traditional.
Yeah, the animatronic face is fantastic. The lip movement, it may not be 100% perfect, but it feels like what it should, because obviously the face is still technically plastic, so they get away with it being kind of stiff, but it matches well enough, and then the eyes kind of like cringe and crinkle and all that. It's really good stuff. But obviously that sets him up as a killer, and she tries to convince the detective, and then Chucky attacks the detective in the car, which gives us the insane car sequence that we all know about.
And then what was funny is, it was going on for a while, and in my head I was like, does this guy know he can just stop? And then almost right when I said that, he slams on the brakes. And then I love though Chucky just reaches his hands out and presses on the gas again.
He starts to try and like mess with the car as well. That's good fun. And then Chucky of course goes to the voodoo guy, and he's like, how do I do this? Like, oh, the first person you revealed your secret to, that's the only person you can swap with, so obviously it's going to be Andy, which means that the rest of the movie is Chucky trying to get to Andy at the hospital, and obviously the mother and the detective are racing to try and like get to him and figure out what's going on and save him, which all leads to a big showdown in the apartment once again, where they shoot and stab him, they burn him alive. In fact, one of my favourite moments actually is basically I think the movie sags a little bit in the middle, but then it picks up again. See when Chucky's coming for Andy, and you know he's on his way, because that's one of the reasons why I like Child's Play 2 so much. Is once they've established him, and he's like Andy's just scared of him, and he knows he's coming, and we see like Andy's looking out the window, and we see him just sort of climbing up the stairway, the fire escape, and all that stuff. I like the idea that Chucky's coming for him, and that no one believes him that this is a thing that could even be happening. I like that. But I like that when it's actually Andy who burns him alive, because the mum's holding in the grate against the fireplace, and he's like, hey Andy, we're going to be friends to the end, and he's like, this is the end, friend, and then he burns him alive. It's like such a badass like action hero one-liner he gives him, but it's like a kid version of it, and I love that. It's really fun.
Yeah, it was great. And this whole ending sequence was pretty nice and tense, and
it's impressive. But I actually think Chucky's really creepy when he's like, because obviously he's not dead yet. He comes back alive and he's all burned and melted. I love how he looks when he's all melted, and I like that in his hand you can see like the metal skeleton, like sort of through all the burned, like not flesh, but the melted plastic. You can see like some of the metal skeleton through the charred burned stuff. It's proper creepy and good.
Yeah. If I have like any complaint, it's just that it's like every time you think they killed them, I just want to be like, all right, keep your eyes on him now. Like, start really cutting up the body or something. Because I don't know, it feels like there's a good, 2, maybe 3 like fake outs. It seems like.
Which, to be fair, I think at that point even the characters acknowledged it though, because the detectives, because the detective to the other cop, he's like, don't touch him, whatever you do. Like he's expecting him to come back at that point. And that's but it's really fun. Obviously, they weren't planning for a sequel at this point, because they mess him up something awful. They melt him, they cut him up. He's completely shot to shit, and which is fine. Obviously, they can just fix that. That's why the cool things about the later movies is that he's basically been put into a new body, and then he's got all the stitched up face, and like it gives him this sort of evolved look. If I'm going to complain about the movie though, it would be that it is kind of this uneven thing where the first half of the movie treats it like a serious horror movie where you don't see him and it's kind of creepy, and then the second half of the movie when he's actually running around and talking and we can see him moving, it does have this kind of goofiness to it, and it does give it this, it's like both halves are good but they feel kind of like they don't kind of click together, which I think is, and I don't know what other people think of Child's Play 2, but I like Child's Play 2 a lot, because I feel like it takes what it became, like what the first movie became, and it runs with it, and the entire movie's about the doll coming for Andy. And it plays up that whole idea that he's become like one of the slasher like giants, like he's like we come for Chucky and like what he's going to be up to.
I don't, like, off the top of my head, I don't remember the sequels super well. Like you know, and I don't want to give too much spoilery thoughts, but I do remember liking 2 quite a bit.
And plus, Dee Wallace is in it, because you don't get any better like movie mum than Dee Wallace.
That is good. But yeah, this does feel like a very one and done movie, and then yeah, as it goes on, you start to see like, all right, now this is feeling more like a, you know, franchise, you know, slasher almost kind of thing.
It's kind of that weird thing, like kind of, you know how like in Friday the 13th it took a couple of movies before, like the first movie wasn't even Jason, and then it was Jason, but he didn't have the mask, and it wasn't until the end of 3 where it feels like, oh, this is the Jason version that everyone. No, I actually love Potato Sack Jason from 2, but obviously I prefer Hockey Mask Jason, and it kind of feels like Child's Play kind of does this in the first movie, where it starts off as this, you know, pretty fun, like sort of creepy movie, and it becomes a Chucky movie by the end of it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do think the 2 halves are kind of separate. They feel kind of different. There's that moment where it confirms that he can talk. As soon as he starts talking, it takes it into a kind of different feel.
And I think like the whole thing with his character, and more so not even like Chucky, but like the character of Charles Lee Ray, is that this is not like a quiet, subtle guy. So once he does start talking and he's in focus, like I like it, but it's not the same kind of like creepy, you know, feel to it. Like now it's more like, now it's like a loud jerk.
He's too much of a loud mouth, yeah, and also maybe doesn't jive quite as well with the first half, where like okay, I guess I get that he's hiding it, but then there's a couple of things that sort of don't line up with that. Like when he wants to watch the 9 o'clock news, and the mum's best friend puts him to bed and says no news, no TV, and then like he turns the TV on himself, and she's like if you're trying to hide the fact that you're real, like you're not doing it. Like walking in and putting the TV on yourself seems like a good way of blowing your cover.
Yeah. Also, I was kind of wondering, you know, I mean, I don't know ultimately what he wants out of life, but if he just
that's a big question,
like,
Tim.
Like if he just wants to be rich, like you could make so much money if you were just like, hey, guess what? I'm a living doll that was brought to life by magic. Like, you know, you don't have to tell people that you're a serial killer.
They call him the Strangler, so I think he just likes killing people.
True.
Like I think that's something he wants to do. He enjoys that part of his life.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. If that's what.
So yeah, I think if he just wanted to be rich, then yeah, he can just be a talking doll. That would do it for him. But
which I didn't really think about up to this point, but maybe his name should have been like the Stabber or something, because the knife is kind of his signature weapon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, he doesn't he tries to strangle the cop because he strangles him in the car. Yeah. He doesn't succeed, but he tries to strangle him. That's right. To be fair, maybe he does try to strangle everyone else. It just doesn't look like it because he's so small. Because he does that thing where he sort of jumps at the mother, and it's like he's sort of trying to bite her neck or something. And I wonder if that's him trying to like strangle her with his hands, but he's like, oh shit, they're not big enough. I can't actually do it.
I also was trying to like gauge what doll strength would be. Like, does he have like this almost superhuman, because he's like jumping, and you know people seem to have like a hard time getting him off, and I don't know.
Yeah, if there's one thing I respect out of an actor, it's making it look like, you know, because obviously in the scene when they're like sort of struggling when he's holding them, they're just holding him and they're just sort of pretending, and it's like that inherently is very goofy. So respect for it not sticking out too much in this, where I felt like, oh, this looks stupid.
Yeah.
It's kind of that thing like Star Trek where they just pretend everything's shaking and the camera's shaking. Yeah. But no. Obviously, Chucky's voice is a big thing. It's always been Brad Dourif. It's a great voice. It's a big part of what makes him him. It's probably why it turned into more of a black comedy with Bride of Chucky. That's when it really went down that avenue. But so no, very good actor. As much as it does it does take away from the creepy quietness of the first half of the movie. I think Chucky became an iconic character because of the voice. As fun as and creepy as it might be, have a doll going around killing things, I think the voice is what made him a character. Oh,
definitely.
It's what puts him in the conversation with your Freddy and your Michael and your Jason and your Pinhead.
Yeah. And this didn't happen to me personally, but I do know some friends who definitely developed like a fear of these kind of dolls, because they were they're based off like a similar looking doll, if I believe. I forget. I don't think it was the exact same name, but
The nice guy.
I think is that what it was?
I don't know. I'm just guessing because it's called Good Guy in this.
Yeah. I think there might be something similar to that. I could be wrong, but I think there is something.
It feels like something that's that would exist. That's the thing actually, because Andy wears like good guy pajamas, and he even wears good guy like regular clothes. Like he has a dungarees on with like the shirt that the good guys wear, and he watches the cartoon. I'm like, man, this kid's obsessed with what feels like a really bland cartoon. No one's getting killed or anything in this cartoon. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's fair, but I do think though it fits in with that '80s aesthetic of like,
I
it looks a
agree.
little Care Bearish kind of.
I'm making fun of it because I mean, when I was a kid, I was at that age, I was into Power Rangers and I was into Turtles and I was into all the other Saban stuff like Mask Rider and Big Bad Beetleborgs and VR Troopers and Batman, of course, and Superman. Like I liked heroes, and this kind of thing just would have felt childish to me, even me then. I just like, oh, he wants to be my friend. No.
Yeah.
When's he beating up Shredder? Come on now.
Yeah. I have a bad memory. I don't know like what age I made that like transition from like, oh, happy little funny hug cartoons to like everything is like slimy and sharp and like.
I was definitely watching that stuff from about the age of 5. So maybe when I was 3 and 4, I was into this more kiddie stuff. I don't know, but it's a mild criticism. I'm not even criticizing it really. I'm just kind of pointing it out. But
yeah,
no, I mean it's a good movie. I don't think it stands up. It's like comparing the first Chucky movie is not like talking about the first Halloween or the first Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not that good. It's not one of these classics, but it is a really fun movie. There's a reason why it spawned sequels. It was obviously successful enough. The director Tom Holland also did Fright Night, which is also quite popular. Although I've only seen it once, and I wasn't that into it when I saw it the first time. Maybe eventually we'll probably do it for the show, and maybe I'll have a different opinion years later. But anything else you want to add about Child's Play?
I mean, I think we covered it. Like this first one, I feel like as we go on with the other movies, they get a little more interesting and have a little more to talk about. This one is also like pretty short. It's like 85 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a long movie. It's pretty straightforward. Once it becomes about the mum and the detective believing that this is happening, it's just them to kind of try to find them and. Obviously, like when she goes to the homeless people and she's trying to find the guy and like he tries to sexually assault her, which basically just happens so the hero cop can be a hero for a second and come in and punch him and be like, leave the lady alone, jackass, or whatever.
We skipped over the electroshock scene.
Oh yes, by all means. Yes.
It's just a cool scene. I didn't have much to say about it, but I did like it.
Fair enough. Yeah, electroshock fun. But no, that is a Child's Play. So I guess we will rate the movie out of the 10s. What are you thinking, Timbo?
I've actually been thinking about this for a while. I was trying to think of like other movies that were similar to it because we've done other toy and doll movies. Like we did Demonic Toys. We did Dolls. We did a movie last year that I love called The Boy. And it's a good movie, but this is not The Boy. I just want to
cut down right. It's not The Boy. Let's just make that clear right now. Every movie you listed there is much better than The Boy. Demonic Toys better than The Boy by a big margin.
Oh, I thought you were gonna break out into a rap for a second. But yeah, I think I'm gonna give this. At first, I was thinking of a little bit of a higher score, but when I started thinking of the other movies, like the other Child's Play that I like better, I was like, well, if I give this one this score, then like I don't want to give it too high right off the bat because I know the other ones I might like better. So I think I'm gonna give this one a nice solid 7.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark. I was thinking 7.5 myself.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. I don't think it's an amazing movie though. It's not, like I say, not one of these big classics. It's a It's a good, fun 80s popcorn time of a movie.
Yeah.
Some good creepy scenes, some good fun scenes at the end. I would kind of compare Chucky keep coming back at the end. It kind of reminded me of the Terminator almost.
Oh
He
yeah.
just kept getting back up. Maybe it was the metal skeleton almost that made me think of that. I don't know. But
he's like pretty indestructible, and is coming back even after being like shot, charred, dismembered.
Yeah. So no, that is Child's Play. Of course, we're going to do all the movies up until October when we get the new one, which is the 7th one that's coming out this year. So there we go. So that is Child's Play. Let us know what you thought of this movie in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Helps out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Also, if you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and see what some of the bonuses you can get over there if you want to support the channel and support the show. So that's us. Anything nice you want to say to people, Tim?
Give us your money. I guess.
If I mean that's a bit more blunt than what I was thinking. But yeah, sure. Obviously we appreciate anything you do submit on Patreon if you do. Obviously there's extra things that we hopefully want to do if we hit certain goals and things like that. But no, that has been Child's Play, so you can look forward to it. Obviously we've been pumping out. Well, we've had a couple of weeks in a row now with 2 episodes per week, which is fun. Tim's away for a week, so there'll be a small gap to that. We're having an extra episode recorded so that you're not going a week without an episode, but it does mean just one a week for a couple of weeks. Once he's back, though, he'll be working like a proper workhorse again and doing lots and lots of episodes. Because we realised that to do the new movies coming out, plus get through these franchises in time for October, because there's a third franchise we need to do for October as well. To get them all done in time, we had to pick up the pace a little bit with how many episodes we were doing. But given it's summer and my TV schedule's not as bad as it was, we can accommodate that. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Once again, keep watching scary movies. We'll see you next time.